Hey everybody, this is my 125 and I apologize for the glare in advance. We're going to be looking at something outside the tank in a minute, so I do need the overhead light on. But in the meantime, we're going to have a look at a couple of the plants in the tank. And mainly what we're looking at is this big one back here, and then this sort of little one right here with these little round leaves on it. So this one back here is a sword. I really honestly do not know what type of sword it is. I got it so long ago. I just remember distinctly that it was a sword. And I remember thinking to myself when I got it that it looked very much like an Anubias. You can see how it's got these sort of long stems on the leaves, and then it's got the leaf at the top of the stem. And that's typically what you would think of when you'd see an Anubias, which is this one right here, and it's kind of stunted, but you can see how it's got a little bit of a stem and then the leaf is at the top of it. But this is most definitely a sword. Now I looked them up and I couldn't find anything specifically talking about what the actual difference is or how closely related they are. I didn't do a ton of looking or digging, but I did look at the families and orders and genus and all that, and I'm not going to pretend I can keep all that stuff straight and know which is which. But I will say that the Anubias and swords are in the same order, but they're in a different family. So I don't know how close that makes them. Being from the same order but different families, I suspect could still make them pretty far apart, but it might not. I don't know. And I will also say that the family names were different, distinctly different, but similar. So again, that might mean absolutely nothing, which I suspect it does, or it might have something to do with the type of classification, and the similar sounding name might mean they're closer than I think. But Anubias and swords can be very similar, but they're definitely different plants, and this one back here is definitely a sword. Now, if you've ever seen my Anubias blooming in my T-bar tank, in fact we can go over here and have a look and see if we've got any blooming right now. This gives you a little better look. I guess we could have come looked at this Anubias. You can see the very distinct stems with the leaf at the top. This looks like a sort of squat version of those swords we were just looking at. But, well, there's not much left of them. But I cut some of the leaves not too long ago. I mean, some of the little flowers, so you can kind of see if I keep them out of the shadow of the camera, and if I get it to focus on the proper thing. It's an interesting little flower, but it never really fully develops underwater, so you never really get to fully appreciate what it looks like open. But I'll tell you what I've always thought it looked like when it opens. My Siamese algae eater just lying up underneath the leaves right there. I really love these Siamese algae eater. Actually, there's a flower right there. So that's partially open. If that was above the surface of the water, that outer leaf sort of area would open up fully, and you'd see the little white flower inside, and then all the little petals on the flower would open up. And the flowers on the Anubias have always reminded me very much of our peace lilies when our peace lilies flower. So if you've ever purchased a peace lily, you'll know that they look exactly like a giant Brazilian sword. And that's because that's a giant Brazilian sword. If you go to the aquarium shop and you purchase a Brazilian sword, you'll get something that, if you're lucky, it'll have 2 or 3 little leaves that size on it, and you might pay $15 or $20 for it. You can go to any of the big box stores, or you can go to the area in your local grocery store that sells flowers around Mother's Day, and you can get something like this for $8 or $10 or something. It's not much at all. And if you grow it as a house plant, it requires very little attention, very little food, water. You can let it get completely dry until the thing's starting to wilt it. It's tough as nails. It flowers. It's beautiful. You see them in every doctor's office, dentist's office, lawyer's office, everywhere. Everybody has these because they're super tough. They can live off of overhead office lighting, etc. It's a peace lily. Everybody knows peace lilies. That's a Brazilian sword. It is absolutely no different. It's just sold under the name Brazilian Sword in the aquarium hobby. So if I were to have one in here, it wouldn't have come from an aquarium shop. I would simply, actually I can show you how you would do it. Come in here, take one of these little segments, and then just take a shovel or, you know, some sort of spade or something and chop here and just chop that chunk out, and you'll get, you know, that little chunk right there will be your sword. And then you got another one here and another one here, and you can get big Brazilian swords for your entire fish room, should you have a fish room, for, you know, $10 or $12 or something like that. So there's your tip of the day. 2 tips. Brazilian swords, swords and Anubias are very similar looking and possibly similar related. And then, of course, don't ever waste your money buying a Brazilian sword out of an aquarium shop. Just go to a big box store and buy a peace lily. It's the same thing. Absolutely same thing. And if you want to double check, I'll put a link below to each of them, and you can look them up by their scientific name, and you will see that it's the exact same scientific name. A peace lily is a Brazilian sword, so save your money. Alright everybody, that was it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you're subscribed, and don't forget this one here is my 125 gallon tank. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you real soon in the next one.